think we can get started here, just as a few more people join us. So welcome to everybody. Officially, we'll introduce all of us here in 1 second, but my name's Aaron, and I'm a recruitment officer here at Lakehead University. We appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy afternoon, busy evening to join us here and learn a little bit more about our criminology program at Lakehead Aurelia. We know it's been a tricky semester. It's been a difficult year kind of for everyone around the COVID-19 pandemic, but we're here to support you guys. We're here to help. Today is all about you guys as students. So we want to make this session as interactive as possible and really get those questions answered you may have about all things Lakehead. So just a few kind of housekeeping notes off the top. This session will be recorded just so we can share it with some of the other guests that were unable to attend with us here today. If you do have questions through the presentation, feel free to use the chat feature or the Q&A feature that's at the bottom of your screen. And either myself or one of the other Lakehead staff will be kind of working the chat behind the scenes to make sure we get some of those questions answered this afternoon. If we do have any technical issues throughout the afternoon, hopefully we won't have too many, but we are all working from home here today. So if there are any internet or any technical issues, any dogs barking or anything crazy, it's okay. Just hang in there and we'll continue on with the session, and we appreciate your patience. So thank you and welcome. So again, just quickly, we'll get introductions underway. My name's Aaron. Again, I'm a recruitment officer here at Lakehead University. I work out of the Lakehead Aurelia campus, which is where our criminology program is housed. And I've been working at Lakehead since about 2011, so a little while now. I grew up in Stratford, which is a small town down near London, Ontario. Yeah, my role with the university, typically I'm working with high school students throughout the year, providing assistance on applications, admissions, program info, and kind of all things Lakehead. So if you do have any questions this afternoon or even after today, feel free to reach out to me directly, and welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Sarah. I'm an undergrad recruitment advisor with Lakehead. I started in August. I'm a recent grad, actually. I graduated in April from Lakehead, the business program out of the Thunder Bay campus. I was born and raised here in Thunder Bay, and I work out of Thunder Bay as well. I'll pass it off to Lena.
Hi, everyone. I am a professor at Lakehead University and the coordinator of the criminology program. I'll tell you a bit more about myself when I start off the criminology program introduction.
All right, thanks. Okay, so before we jump in to learn more about our criminology program, I'm just going to let everyone know what it's like, some stats about Lakehead University and what really makes us stand out from any other university. So we are Canada's top 10 universities, and this is primarily in undergrad studies. For 5 years in a row, we have been ranked Canada's #1 undergraduate research university. So this means that we offer research opportunities to our undergrad students. Normally, research is reserved for students that are in their master's or their PhD programs at most schools. So at Lakehead, you're really able to get a lot of hands-on learning and do some research right in your first or even second year with your professors. And this is something that we're really proud about. We have about 8,500 students studying from both of our campuses from over 80 different countries. So we are really a multicultural university. So you'll meet so many people from all around the world. We have one-of-a-kind programs, but today, of course, we'll be talking about our great criminology program. And lastly, 90% of our classes have fewer than 60 students in them. So this means that your professors will know you by your first name and not just a number on a piece of paper. So this is really important because you're really able to make those personal one-on-one connections with your professors and your classmates. You're really able to build that community of learners and network and just have people that you can rely on during your studies at Lakehead. That's something that's really important to think about. And with that, so having those small class sizes, it leads to greater success. So 96.7% of our students after they graduate are employed within 2 years. So we know our students are getting a quality education and are getting jobs directly after university. I'm sure that's something important, and that's all that you guys think about is getting a job, because I mean, who wouldn't, right? So Lakehead does help prepare our students very well for their futures and their future careers. So now I'll stop talking and pass it off to Alana to delve into our criminology program.
Thank you. So criminology is broadly thinking about all sorts of areas of study that are connected to crime and justice. And so I'm going to tell you a bit about my area of research, but I want you to understand that there's all sorts of other areas of research that are then represented by the various courses that we offer in our program, and frankly, many more topics than that. So I joined Lakehead in 2018, and at that time, I stepped into the role of the criminology program coordinator. I got my PhD at Queen's University and spent some time working in Chicago at the University of Illinois at Chicago before I came here. Now, my research focus has been really around legal authorities and how it is that we as members of the public accept the behaviors of legal authorities, particularly in relation to surveillance, data collection and monitoring, and the way that that impacts our lives in positive or negative or in different ways. So that is one small area of the field of criminology. When we think about what criminologists do, this can be thinking about studying victimization, specific forms of victimization, such as perhaps just being interested in domestic violence, intimate partner violence, perhaps being interested in human trafficking. You can think about criminality. So what is it that draws people to crime or pushes people into crime? So we're thinking about all ranges of possible factors here, some of them that might be situated within the individual, ways in which our personal experiences come very much to influence what we do, or our thought processes, but some of them that are situated very much at social levels. So when we think about something like experiences with poverty, for example. Then you have the criminal justice system and agencies all connected around it. So of course, we think about policing, courts, and correctional facilities, prisons and jails as sort of central institutions. But alongside that, there are others that very much are connected to what it is to study criminology. We can think about probation officers. We can think about persons who work on the front end in combination with youth to try to divert them from activities that would lead them into, to have further contact with the criminal justice system. We can think on the back end of victim services agencies. So what I want you to understand is that when I talk about my research, which very much focus, well, you'll hear me talk about it as I talk about research opportunities. I want you to know that that is just my starting point, and there's other people who have different starting points, some of which I can tell you about. Now, when we think about the structure of the criminology program, what it is a program that's situated in a department of interdisciplinary studies. So we're not a department of criminology. You're coming to a department of interdisciplinary studies. And there's something really excellent about that. And that's that you have a broad range of course options that you can consider alongside your criminology degree. I'm going to explain it in detail in a minute, but you're only required to take a certain amount of crim programming throughout your time at Lakehead to earn a major. And you might actually be interested in other types of courses, ranging from English and history when we're thinking about the humanities, but you might also be interested in other social sciences, for example, sociology and psychology, political science, for instance. So these are all programs, they are all offered in connection to the interdisciplinary studies department as well. So we have political scientists, sociologists, psychologists, media studies, history, and English all represented in our department in terms of faculty members alongside criminology. So I just want you to understand that in completing your criminology degree at Lakehead in this interdisciplinary studies program, what you're seeing is a sort of built-in expectation that you may be interested in other areas and us encouraging you to be able to explore those. And I'll get into the details of how you can do that in a second. Now, degree options, the default option that anyone coming from high school, or rather, let's just say as an entrance to Lakehead, is that you're going to come into our honors Bachelor of Arts and Science as a criminology major, if your focus is on criminology. And what that requires is a 70% average. And I know that this is going to come up a little later, so I won't delve into it too far here, but you do need a 70% average in the courses required to enter the program, which is essentially your top 6 grade 12 M or U level courses. Now, when I say honors, the honors is distinguishing the fact that you have entered with a 70% average and that you will maintain that average. So when you graduate from our criminology program with a 70% average or above, you earn this honors distinction. And then I want you to note that it is a Bachelor of Arts and Science. Now, BASC is just something that I always like to tell our graduates to sell as something that demonstrates their diversity a little bit further beyond a bachelor's degree in isolation. To have the Bachelor of Arts and Science indicates that you've taken a certain amount of science programming, which we build into our program through criminalistics courses, as well as some psychology programming. You can also go on, of course, to take other courses that you find interesting, but this is already built in. You don't need to worry about what courses do I need to take to do this. This happens along the way. Now, you might be interested in coming through a college transfer. So if you're a student who's completed a police foundations program across Ontario, so in one of our Ontario colleges, you can also enter as a student who's a college transfer student. And this will give you 6, I don't want to get too technical on you here, but in the process of completing your degree at Lakehead, you need to do what we call 20 full credit equivalents. So 20 semester long courses are required to be completed. Now, you'll get credit for having completed 6 of them. I didn't say that right. 20. Sorry, Erin, you must be like thinking, goodness gracious. So we're going to complete 5 FCEs, full credit equivalents per year. Each one of those is representative taking a full year course, but we tend to have half-year courses, semester-long courses, which means they're worth 0.5. I know that that's confusing. I'm sorry. The point is you get to this full completion of a degree when you've completed 20 FCEs, which would be the equivalent of completing 40 courses essentially in your crim program, because we have only semester-long courses. And you'll get credit for completing 6. So a little bit more than a quarter of the way to your degree completion, or 12 semester-long courses, if you come through as a college transfer pathways student. This still gives you the ability to earn the honors Bachelor of Arts and Science. Now, you might see at some point, because we do acknowledge this, that there is also a Bachelor of Arts and Science. So you'll notice that we just dropped the honors there. And typically speaking, students never enter our program that way. This is a default option that people fall back into if they have a problem maintaining the 70% average. So if you're completing your degree at Lakehead in criminology and you end up with an average in the major, so in your criminology classes that falls below 70%, but that is above 60%, then you are still eligible to graduate, and you go ahead and do that with the Bachelor of Arts and Science as opposed to the honors. Now, I want to let you know, when I completed my undergraduate, there actually wasn't an honors distinction at my university, so I have graduated with a Bachelor of Arts and Science. But that, not something that in any way hindered me. I don't want you to feel bad about potentially falling back into that one day, but the honors distinction is a really nice indicator that, again, you have to explain to people what it means. It means I graduated with this 70% average or above. Now, if you're interested in coming in to criminology, the common thing for people to do is to come in and complete a major. Now, in the process of completing a major, you are required to complete 6 out of those 20 full credit equivalents, so essentially 12 courses in the criminology program. And what you might see from that immediately is that there's a whole lot of breadth, a whole lot of opportunity for you to complete non-criminology programming if you want to do. Now, that doesn't mean that we only have 12 courses in crim. We actually are a very big contingent on the Aurelia campus. And so we have many more courses than that, and I'll get into that in a sec. But if you are interested in doing the major, you come into first year and you will be required to take Introduction to Criminology and Introduction to Criminalistics. In second year, you go on to be required to take criminological theory and criminological research methods. You also are required to take another 2 courses in criminology in your second year, or rather that are at the second year level. And we have several options for you to choose from there for actually presently youth, crime and justice, gender and crime, race, ethnicity and crime, and a criminal laws class that's cross-listed with political science, sort of demonstrating our connection to other content areas. In third year, you go on to, again, explore other criminology options that you might be interested in taking. And in fourth year, you are again required to take a course that is dedicated to professional field exposure, and you are required to have accomplished another course at the third or fourth year level in criminology. Now, if you're minoring in criminology, you're only required to complete 3 FCEs, which means that specifically you have to take these first year courses, Introduction to Criminology and Introduction to Criminalistics, but then you're required, or not, you're required to pick any 4 other courses that you ultimately are interested in completing to round out those 3 FCEs, so 6 required courses overall. Now, when you're thinking about, well, what options do I have with these courses that you offer? Our areas of study, I separate them into 3 broad thematic areas. So I see our program as consisting of a stream of social justice and human rights oriented courses. So we're thinking about there, for example, gender and crime as an example, race, ethnicity, and crime as an example. We have a stream of courses that are focused on law and legal institutions. So for example, in third year, we have a course dedicated to policing, a course dedicated to prosecutions, which we think of as courts, and a course dedicated to corrections. In fourth year, you can go on to pursue additional courses that build off of these. For example, special topics courses that focus on evidence-based policing, a permanently offered course that focuses on restorative justice as an alternative to the courts, and a critical thinking course that focuses on the politics of mass incarceration as a follow-up to this corrections course. The third stream of courses that we offer are those focused on forensic science and criminalistics. And you've already heard me mention this in a first year course offering, the Introduction to Criminalistics course that you're required to take, but you can choose to continue to follow that up in subsequent years with other courses, including death investigation, criminal profiling, forensic psychology as key cases in point. So these are some of the starting points to think of for our curriculum, but overall, on a regular basis, by which I mean an annual basis, we offer upwards of 30 courses in total. We are a very popular unit at the Aurelia campus. We service students, of course, in criminology, but many students interested in taking electives that are at the Aurelia campus more broadly, and that gives us a lot of opportunity to offer a range of courses each year, which you can see listed in or on our criminology website. Now, I want to take a moment to acknowledge a really special course that we've developed called Professional Field Exposure. This is a fourth year course, and you might be wondering, is there a co-op at Lakehead for the crim program? There is not, is the answer. But this alternative that we've developed, I actually prefer. So I was a student who did a co-op back in my undergraduate in criminology, And I found it fine, but I recognized that when you do a co-op, you need to, one, actually land the position that you were interested in, and two, hope that once you got there, that it was actually something that you found interesting, and three, hope that once you got there, that you had people who were interested in engaging with you beyond just go get the coffee, file this paper. And that's a lot of variability, uncertainty, I think, associated with co-ops. And for that reason, we opted to go a different direction with this field exposure course. And what it does is, in fourth year, this required course introduces you to a whole range of career options, some of which you'll see listed on the next slide in a few moments. But what this deals with is introducing you to not just one career option, but a range of career options. Of course, thinking about policing, prosecutions, corrections as key opportunities, but also thinking more broadly about connections to the government, both at the provincial and the national levels, thinking about opportunities to work with very important agencies connected to our police services, like victim services agencies, and thinking about a variety of nonprofits like John Howard Society, Elizabeth Fry Society, that often perform key roles connected to persons either at risk of becoming in contact with the criminal justice system or who have come in contact with the criminal justice system. So what our ambition was with this course was to create a situation where on a weekly basis, you would be exposed to a new career option that has practitioners come in, or in this case, Zoom in to the classroom to be able to talk about the pathway to pursuing that as a career option, to give students an opportunity to network with this person, and also to really start to feel out if that's something that you are in any way interested in. Maybe it's not exactly what you thought it would be. So that is what I would highlight as a really interesting experiential learning connection course. We also in that course focus on developing your resume, developing skills important to getting out onto the job force, including things like interviewing and where to look for jobs. Now, as you heard Sarah say, Lakehead routinely ranks very highly as an undergraduate research institution. There are plenty of student research opportunities in the criminology programs, specifically if this is something that students are interested in. It's also something that you need to demonstrate that you have the ability to do by being a very high-performing student. For myself, big areas of research for me are different data collection technologies that police engage with, for example, body-worn cameras, automated license plate recognition, unpiloted aerial vehicles. Over the past couple of years, I've been partnered with various police services in Ontario to conduct evaluations of their body-worn cameras pilot projects, which have become a really hot thing. In the process of doing that, I've had a minimum of 15 undergraduates work with me in paid capacities, who assisted in the field in collecting data with practitioners on various components of projects. This included, working with victims of sexual assault and intimate partner violence. This included working with officers on ride lines, working with officers in police departments in terms of looking through files to collect data. As you can see, I'm very police focused. Having said that, we do have other researchers who work in our department who are interested in other things. For example, Daniel Krupp is an excellent researcher who focuses on the evolution of violence, so very psychologically minded in terms of what predisposes people to commit acts of violence, particularly within families, for example. Why is it more likely that step-parents will kill their children than biological parents? This is an interesting question that he engages with in his research. We've also just hired a wonderful new member to our department, Deborah McKinnon, who has a very critical focus on the role that, again, data collection technologies play in society, but thinking about it in a way that really questions those, I'd say much more so than I do. I certainly question them, but she's done some very interesting research in cities, smart cities. How, again, does this constant exposure of persons to surveillance technology impact the functioning of cities and impact the persons, including both surveilled people and surveillors? Now, we also have other department members who are cross-listed or who sit with us in criminology to a certain extent. For example, Beth Visser. And again, she focuses, very interesting, I know for many people, on personality psychology and understanding what are the factors that are associated with psychopathic personalities, for instance. And I know that's always one that grabs people's attention. Now, moving along, I'm sure something that you're interested in are career opportunities associated with working or associated with a criminology degree. So we've got a large number listed here on this slide. At a minimum, I like to separate it out this way. You can think about it in terms of the criminal justice system. At the front end, we have policing. In the middle, we have courts. And on the back end, we have corrections. Outside of those, we also have tangentially connected organizations. So we do think about people who are involved with youth before they become connected to any sort of criminal activity that are really working with youth who are in more high-risk situations. So the Boys and Girls Clubs, the John Howard Societies, the Elizabeth Fry Societies, the YMCAs, these are all excellent places that we see people be able to move into in more managerial positions with undergraduate degrees. On the back end, we certainly think also again about people I've mentioned, probation officers, parole officers, victim services personnel. So these are directions that you might be interested in. More removed from that, we do think about undergraduate degrees in general and criminology degrees, in particular a social science degree, being useful for transitioning into government positions. And I want to I want to flag for you now that some of the best ways to get into government work in terms of provincial and federal government is when you are still a student. So in your fourth year, you should be actively looking for these opportunities that are posted on the provincial and federal government websites for student co-ops to come in. Not that that's through the university, but that they want people who are still presently students. You can even do this in your third year. These are the ways that you get your feet in the door with, frankly, a challenging group to get into. The government is something that can be really difficult to get into, but that is the way to do it. You need to look for these student co-ops. They are a great way to start it off. We also think about stuff that's a little bit more tangentially related. So working for Canada Border Services Agency, for example, going to work with Statistics Canada. We see that much of Statistics Canada is focused on people's opinions and realities when it comes to crime and victimization. So this is just some of what we're thinking about. The bottom line is that you certainly have a wealth of career options with any social science degree. And if you have an interest in crime and justice concerns, I think a criminology degree is a really exceptional one to consider, because certainly a focus on something you're interested in is critical to success. Now, thinking about that, just wrapping my part of this up, what I'll say is that when I think about our crim program and what it offers, I think that it is one that is highly oriented towards practitioners, that we are aware that many of our students are interested in going into policing and going on to law school. These are two enormous categories I hear from students. In both of these regards, being at an institution that is smaller has some real advantages. So something I didn't mention is that, we do know that Lakehead is a smaller institution relative to some of our bigger institutions, but what do our class sizes look like? Well, in first year, our criminology caps have previously been capped at 120, but we're actually in the process of reducing that to 60. Our second year caps have been capped at 60. We may be choosing to bring those down. Our third year caps at 40 and our fourth year caps at 20. Now, those might still feel large, particularly to high school classes, but what I will say is that they're incredibly small compared to other criminology programs. There's nothing wrong with being at a big school in a big class. There are some, that is something that some people will find enjoyable. I do think that being in a smaller program with smaller classes can be very useful if you're a student who has a really clear vision of what you want. And if it's policing or law school or graduate school, I really think that this is an excellent program for you to consider. because of the fact that it allows you to immediately start getting to know faculty members much more closely. As Sarah highlighted up front, the opportunities to do research as an undergraduate are often limited at other institutions. Well, they're not here. And the way that I identify students to be involved in my research is from my courses, because I'm able to have them repeatedly, and I'm able to understand who they are because I'm not dealing with hundreds of students at the same time. So I would say that when you think about policing, which is a career that is very interested in having detail-oriented reference letters, to be able to have that sort of thing come from a faculty member can be incredibly useful. It's not just that I had Sarah in my course and she got an 80, but instead I can speak in a much greater depth to what it is I know about your consistency, your reliability, your integrity, and any other aspects of what I've come to know about you. I do know that students, particularly students I've done research projects with, have gone to work in various police services across Ontario. Now, on the law school and graduate school front, you might be thinking about this as a direction. And what I'd say is that it's incredibly important to get good grades for both of those, well, any sort of continued postgraduate education. High grades are not something that you should feel is a necessity of your entrance year in university, and they often aren't. Your entrance year is often not considered, but it is something that you want to be attentive to as quickly as possible. Higher grades are critical to being able to stand out as a competitive applicant for postgraduate education, and also for earning scholarships. If you're going to go on to additional programs, so graduate school, you ideally want those additional programs to pay for you. And there are these sort of scholarship opportunities, but they're very connected to having very strong grade performances, which we do think of, to give you a specific reference point, as an 80% or above. This is when you're really getting into the category of strong grade performances. To be able to be at a smaller institution, one, allows you the opportunity to work with your faculty members during your courses, I think, in a way that gives you perhaps a clearer sense of what is expected from you, that helps you immediately strive for these successful grade markers. But also, if you are having difficulties meeting those goals, to be able to take the initiative upon yourself to connect with your faculty members after the fact and say, this is what I'm doing and I don't know what's wrong. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity at a smaller institution, in a smaller program, to be able to speak with faculty members very personally. Now, having said that, even though I said, it's a smaller program, smaller institution, we have roughly 220 majors in the crim program right now. We have many more minors on top of that. That's what allows us to be able to offer this diversity of undergraduate programming. And that is also another reason that I think criminology at Lakehead is an excellent sell. If you don't have these specific interests, we're still a school that offers you the opportunity to work closely with faculty members, achieve high grades if you're not sure what you want to do. And we have at a minimum these 3 streams I've identified for you: social justice, legal institutions, or a practitioner-ish stream, and then our criminalistics orientation. And then beyond that, you will of course see individualistic courses that speak to people's areas of interest. For example, Dr. Krupp teaches an evolution of violence course in 3rd, and an advanced version of that course in 4th year. So those are some of the ways that I would think about as particular advantages of the program that we offer. And I'm sure you've learned about it somewhere along the way. And I'm so sorry if I step on Sarah and Aaron's toes about this one, but the undergraduate scholarship entrances can't be beat. These are exceptional entrance opportunities for students coming in. And if you are a student who has been successful in high school, you might want to really consider Lakehead on the front that it offers very reduced financial burdens given the scholarships. And I think I'll leave it there, but I'm very happy to answer questions as they come out of those questions, as you present them.
That's awesome. Thanks, Alana. That's a perfect segue, and we'll definitely touch on a little bit around scholarships here in a second, but I'll maybe just take a quick pause just before I get into kind of the admissions side of things, as we kind of get to the back end of our our presentation year. You guys have been posting a few questions in the Q&A, which is awesome. So if you have more questions for Dr. Saulnier or myself or Sarah, feel free to post them in the chat or use the Q&A function in the next couple minutes. And what we'll do is we'll go through those at the end as part of our formal Q&A. So keep those questions coming. And I know a few of those questions are in the queue here, and I'm going to answer them in 1 second. But thanks to Dr. Saulnier for all the great info there on the CRIM program. So kind of looking at next steps, if you're kind of considering Lakehead and their criminology program as an option, we definitely want to touch on kind of the application side of things. And I know a few of you had some questions around admissions requirements and transfer credit, and I'm definitely happy to answer some of those here in a second. Now, kind of looking at the general admissions requirements for any program at Lakehead, and this would include the criminology program. Alana touched on this a little bit earlier. We're looking for obviously your high school diploma, a minimum of 6 grade 12 URM courses, and that would include your program prerequisites, which I'll get to in a second. We're looking for a minimum 70 overall average, and that average is based on your best 6 grade 12 URM courses. Okay, so that's kind of a different factor compared to some universities. We do look at your best 6 grade 12 URM, not specifically your prerequisite courses. So if you're taking, 7 or 8 grade 12 URM level courses, we're going to look at your top 6 to calculate your overall average. And if you meet that minimum 70 overall average, you do have a good opportunity to receive admissions into the program. Now, looking at the prerequisites for the program, fairly simple. So grade 12 U English is the main required prerequisite course. And then we're looking for any additional 5 grade 12 U or M credits. Okay, so grade 12 U English is the only specific prerequisite course. That's a question I typically get a lot from students is, with an arts and science degree program, do I need to have, grade 12 biology or grade 12 chemistry or some sort of science prerequisite for the program? The answer is no, just grade 12 U English from a prerequisite perspective. And I'm sure Alana can touch on, some of those social science and science credits that students would take throughout the criminology program if you kind of have questions around that as well. Just before I move on to the next one, I do want to touch on the transfer credit question that I got earlier. So I think it was Danielle that asked in the chat kind of how transfer credit works, and Alana did a great job kind of explaining our college transfer pathway, which is definitely one option into the program for those of you that aren't coming from an Ontario high school. But we do accept students that transfer from other institutions and other universities as well. So essentially for Danielle and any other student that may be on our session this afternoon that's coming from another university, I'll let Sarah post the link in the chat, but in terms of admissions requirements, we will be looking for a minimum 60 overall average based on your university level courses. You still need to have the high school prerequisite courses for the criminology program, which would be grade 12 University English. And I'm actually our transfer coordinator here at Lakehead. So if you do have questions after today around the application process or transfer credit, I'd be happy to do a one-on-one meeting with you or chat via email to answer some of those questions. But that's another option for you, Danielle. If you are looking to apply, college and university students would apply using the 105 application on the Ontario University Application Centre website. For those of you that are Ontario high school students and Canadian residents, you would apply using the 101 application on the OUAC website. So again, I'll get maybe Sarah to post both of those links in the chat just so you can take a peek. But that's how the admissions kind of differs from high school to a college or university transfer applicant. Now, if you want to stay in touch or maybe learn a little bit more about the CRIM program or speak to some of our advisors across all of our departments at Lakehead, we've got a great opportunity coming up on December 9th. So we are hosting our second virtual open house of the fall. Great opportunity for you guys to speak directly with faculty members from across our programs, including criminology, learn a little bit more about scholarships, awards, and financial aid, things like residence, student support services. So feel free to visit lakeheadu.ca/admissions and there's a link at the bottom there specifically for registration for the event. We just announced this week we are doing a grand prize draw for free tuition this year. So one lucky winner will receive free tuition, and you get entered into that draw by attending our virtual events. So get your name in, give yourself an opportunity to hopefully win free tuition for first year. And if you do have any questions around open house, again, Sarah and I can also give you a hand with that. We would love to have you guys for a physical campus tour. Unfortunately, with everything going on in the world today with COVID-19, we're putting a pause on our campus tour program, but we do have a great opportunity for you guys through our virtual campus tour. So if you visit our website, it's up on the screen there. We've got a full campus tour for both our Orillia and our Thunder Bay campus. So you can kind of click your way and walk your way through all the buildings and the academic center and residence and kind of get a feel for things. It's the next best thing to actually being on campus and doing a a physical tour. And hopefully later on in the future, when we get back to some sort of new normal, we'll be able to host you physically on campus as well. So great place to start if you're looking to learn a little bit more about the campus life. Lastly, you can also book an appointment with us. So feel free to book a one-on-one with myself or Sarah or any of our recruitment team members. You can visit our website, lakeheadu.ca/admissions and events. And you can book a one-on-one Zoom meeting with any of us. So we'd be happy to chat about transfer credits or admissions or anything around some of the things we've talked about today. So another great opportunity to stay in touch. So with that said, I wanted to kind of keep it brief because I do want to get into some more of those questions. So maybe we'll open it up to our Q&A part of the program here. If you do have any further questions, again, feel free to drop them in the chat portion or in the Q&A. And myself and Sarah will maybe moderate here. It would be great if we had some kind of specific questions from you guys around maybe coursework or research opportunities or some of the experiential learning options that Alana talked about, just while we have her here online, and we'll stay as long as you guys need to answer your questions. So again, I want to thank Alana for her session earlier, and thanks to all of you for joining. And without further ado, we'll open it up to questions. So what I'll do here, I'm just going to open up the Q&A to start, and we'll see what kinds of questions we have here. So I've got a question here from Haley, Alana, and I'm sure you can touch on kind of courses, but Haley has a question around if we're required to take English for each year of the program.
No. Not that I think that would be a bad idea. You can take English every year of your program. There is the flexibility to do that, and I don't think it's a bad idea. Strong writing skills are one of the things that we work to develop in university in general as a transferable skill that you can apply out in the real world. And many of your crim program courses do have essay or other written components like short answer or long answers on tests, discussion posts that still make having taken additional English courses a valuable asset. But no, you are not required to take them at any point. In fact, it is never a requirement to do that.
Great. So we'll get to the next question. This is another one for you, Alana. So Danielle has a question around grad school, and her question was, how do I know if grad school is right for me? So maybe if you have some kind of tips around grad school and master's programs, that would be great.
Absolutely. So, when we think about grad school, I'd say that it's something that you shouldn't worry about much as an undergraduate. You should focus on what you are enjoying about your undergraduate program. And as you get to third year, that's the time that you might start to be thinking about what am I going to do next? And grad school is a possible option of what to do next. My recommendation around grad school is that you should only go to grad school if the career that you are interested in requires that, or if you have some immense interest and a lot of free time and money, I guess is another real response to that. But, if you are looking for particular types of careers, So if you are looking to go into any sort of research analyst position, for example, with police services independently hire research analysts, all sorts of companies independently hire research analysts to direct what it is that they do, to basically say, here's evidence to guide our actions. And that goes all the way to Statistics Canada. So we're talking about federal government organizations here. That is a really good reason for a career path to go to graduate school, because you want to get advanced training around data collection and analysis. But more generally, there can be other good reasons. Certainly people who go on to careers that just had a strong interest. For example, I worked with someone who's a victim services coordinator and went and did her master's on victims' experiences to be able to be best positioned for that career, because it was something she was interested in. It wasn't necessarily required for her position, but it was a valuable asset. And then another really big reason, if you are very interested in it, to go on to graduate school is to go all the way and keep being a researcher. So to work in some capacity at a university or in some sort of consultation firm that deals with a particular area of research. And I would always strongly advocate that if your grades are at a level that aren't able to secure the scholarships, graduate school might not be the greatest path for you. You know, there are times when we think about things as it's just not a good use of our time and money. So, you know, trying to hit that 80% average as an undergraduate would be really useful to knowing that it would be a good direction for you to pursue beyond undergraduate.
Perfect. Thanks, Lon. I know it's a tough decision. It's one hurdle is doing your honors bachelor's, and then, you know, it's always great to look forward into the future as well in terms of grad programming. So you've got maybe a few years, Danielle, till you have to decide, but it's always good to start researching early. So that's a good question. So our next question here is from Jacob, and this is kind of an admissions related question. So he said he's looked at other universities in terms of the criminology program, and their averages are a little bit higher than ours, and he's wondering why Lakehead's is a little bit lower than some of the others. So that's a question we kind of get from time to time from some of our high school applicants. And really what I can say simply is admissions averages do not reflect the academic quality of those programs. So really when you're looking at any university, but let's say Ontario universities in general, when you're applying, university averages are based, a good way to put it is on supply and demand, right? So how many applicants are universities receiving for the number of spots that are available for those programs? So here at Lakehead University, across any of our campuses, the majority of our programs are what we call open enrollment, in that we don't have a set cap on the number of students that we admit into our academic programs, because we have spots available in those programs. So it's not like we only have 50 seats available for the criminology program. If we did, we'd have to raise our admissions average, obviously, because we'd have you know, quite a big pool of students applying for those limited seats. So it's for us, having the open enrollment option really provides accessibility to students that are applying to university and applying to our programs here at Lakehead, Orillia, or our Thunder Bay campus. If you're applying to some of the larger institutions in Ontario that are in some of those really large urban cities like a Toronto or a London or an Ottawa as an example, typically those admissions averages may be a little higher than ours, and that's because they have, you know, hundreds or if not thousands in some cases more students applying for those limited seats in the same program. So it's, in a lot of cases, that's how the admissions averages are set from year to year, and they do fluctuate, which I'm sure you'll notice when you're kind of comparing programs. But the admissions average isn't a reflection of the academic program. And I think if you look at the you know, the student surveys, you know, the Maclean's rankings, the employment rates that we kind of spoke about earlier, definitely reflects positively on the Lakehead programs that we have offered here. And Alana, maybe you can touch on that. I know you were kind of starting at the start.
I was going to say the exact same thing you've said, Aaron, and like with the addition of saying that, yes, it is a university that offers a more inclusive approach to education, but that doesn't mean there aren't exceptional students who pursue their educations here. And, you know, I've been very fortunate to be able to work with some of them as research assistants. So I think it is a good place, regardless of the average that you have or the average that we're seeking.
Yeah, and that kind of segues into the scholarship question, which we have next from Chloe. And she's asking, are scholarships automatically calculated by grades? So kind of touching on our admissions average, the admissions average for the criminology program is a 70. But if you have a higher average, the higher average you have, the more opportunities you'll have for things like scholarships, awards, and bursaries, which is a really big opportunity for all of our students coming into our Lakehead programs. Lakehead is consistently in the top 3 universities in Ontario awarding scholarships and bursaries. This past year, we gave out $11 million to students, and we only have about 9,000 undergraduate students between our 2 campuses. So I'm an English major, but I can do the math on that. That's a lot of funding, $11 million spread out to just over 9,000 students. So as long as you're applying for scholarships, awards, and bursaries, there's some really great opportunities. And one of the largest we have is our automatic entrance scholarship. So if you're coming in with a minimum overall average of 80% or higher, based on your best 6 grade 12 U or M courses, we're going to guarantee you a first-year entrance scholarship. So that scholarship starts at $750. And it goes all the way up to free tuition depending on your academic average. So I'll maybe let Sarah post the link for the scholarships in the chat, just so you guys can take a peek. But again, the minimum average for the entrance scholarship is 80%. And there's some great opportunities there through that automatic entrance scholarship, in addition to any other scholarships, awards, and bursaries that we give out. Chloe, just to reiterate for that question you had, the average is based on your best 6 grade 12 U or M, okay, just like the admissions average. So good question. Okay, the next question is around admissions average again and kind of grade inflation. So would this year's general cutoff average be raised because of mark inflations this year? So with any Ontario university, a grade is a grade if it's coming from a ministry approved school. So any grades that will be admitted from an Ontario high school, we will review like any other. And our admissions averages will be a minimum 70 overall for the criminology program, along with most programs at Lakehead. So that's an anonymous question, but if you do have more kind of questions around that, I'm happy to answer those a little bit later as well. Let me see if I can get few program questions here.
I saw a question that was connected to, are there any classes that are specific to Lakehead's program? Do you mind if I answer that, Aaron?
Yeah, for sure.
So that is a great question. I'd absolutely say that field exposure course is quite unique to Lakehead. We have all sorts that I already described, so I won't get back into that. We have all sorts of courses that we offer very regularly. So for example, in 4th year this year, we offered psychopathic personalities, criminal profiling, restorative justice and mediation, comparative criminology, trafficking, and special topics courses, including the evolution of violence, surveillance, crime and justice, and challenging extremism. So those just in our 4th year courses. Now, when I think about what's unique amongst our courses relative to other programs, it would depend entirely on the other program that you're looking at. I know we have an exceptionally broad range of courses given the relatively small size of our program. But what I'd highlight, I think that a focus on social justice and a focus on criminal justice institutions or the criminal justice system is, for me, a very standard feature of a criminology program. But the inclusion of a criminalistics orientation, that introduction to criminalistics course in 1st year and upper year courses that focus on this as well, death investigation, criminal profiling, the person who regularly teaches these courses for us, Dr. Carol Ann Wood, she's also regularly offering special topics courses, which mean they change all the time, but ones that she's offered in the past have included animals, forensic science, and the law. So thinking about different ways in which people are identified as having particular animal traumas, how people died from animal encounters was a focus of that particular course. That stream of courses is quite unique. My undergraduate in criminology, I never took a course like that. It's, I think, a very normal thing for undergraduate programs in criminology to not focus on that stream of criminalistics in Ontario. There are some other universities that have some similar offerings to that, but I'd say that that's a very unique aspect of the Lakehead program.
Awesome, thanks, Alana. Maybe kind of continuing on with that, I see a question from Gavin around first-year criminology courses and kind of what a first year would look like for those students.
Sure. So in first year, it's very normal that lots of our degree programs actually only have a very few number of courses dedicated to their first year, because we want you to be able to take other courses in your first year. So for example, if you were in sociology, you'd take Introduction to Sociology in your first year and then sort of have free reign on many of the other courses you'd take. In criminology, you have to take these two courses, Introduction to Criminology and also Introduction to Criminalistics. But after that has been accomplished, you actually have a whole range of additional courses that you can fill in the blanks with. So some of this is, choosing between options. For example, we require you to choose between taking Introduction to Sociology, Introduction to Psychology, Introduction to Political Science. So you can take any one of these courses, but you have to take one of them. You also have to take a first-year interdisciplinary studies course. And there is, again, some flexibility about what that can be, but it has to be this type of course. And then literally half of your program, so you think of it as 5 full credit equivalents, and if you're taking them only as a semester-long course, that's 10 courses that you'd complete throughout the year. 5 of them are in some way accounted for in that they're very specific, Introduction to Criminalistics, Introduction to Criminology. An additional 3 are taken care of in terms of choose between these options. And then a whole 2.5 full credit equivalents, so 5 of these semester-long courses are just for you to choose. So maybe you're interested in biology, maybe you're interested in English, maybe you're interested in media studies. That's up for you to choose. So that is a real asset of the program in terms of providing you with a lot of flexibility.
Perfect. So I see, I'm just going to touch on one quick scholarship question, then we'll get back to you, Alana, in terms of the program. So the question here is from Paul, and he's wondering how you actually apply for scholarships and financial aid. So that's a good question. It's a pretty simple process at Lakehead, which is great. So we have kind of one centralized application system. It's called My Awards. So once you've applied to Lakehead, we'll start sending you guys lots of great information around scholarship applications and residence and kind of next steps. But once you've applied to Lakehead, we'll give you a username as well as a temporary password to access our website. So once you have that login, you can go to lakeheadu.ca and click on what's called My Awards. And that's kind of like your student portal within the Lakehead University website. You'll use your My Info account for everything from applying to, checking on your application status to applying for scholarships, awards, and bursaries through My Awards, as well as registering for courses and lots of other things. So Paul and for the other students on today, you guys will definitely get some information in the next few months kind of around how scholarships, awards, and bursaries work. But it's one centralized application system through the Lakehead website. So nice and easy. And if you do have any questions, you can contact myself or Sarah or some of our Student Central professionals. And there's lots of people there to help you guys in terms of applying for scholarships and awards, and even OSAP. If you do have questions around OSAP as well, we do have some info for that. So that's a good question, Paul. Thanks. So maybe we'll jump down to the next question, Alana, and this is kind of program related. So this is from Haley, and she says she just applied today. So thanks, Haley. Congrats on applying and taking the first step. She's hoping to become a criminal profiler, and she's just wondering if there were specific courses that she should keep in mind or take throughout her Lakehead career.
It's a good question. I think that is one of the questions that I when I see from students, I get a little nervous about, because I think that our media exposure has really tainted our understanding of career paths related to that position in particular, the sort of CSI longstanding effect. In all reality, when I think about the real paths to criminal profiling work, I think about being a police officer. So you're talking about someone who has become a frontline member, so they become a sworn member at a police service. They have demonstrated an interest and an ability in becoming a detective, and they have moved up through those ranks. That is, for me, the very applied realities of becoming a criminal profiler. Now, if you're thinking about it on the much more forensics front, what I would suggest that you consider as key is anthropology and a forensic anthropology program. In all reality, this is coupled really well with a criminology major. So for example, you can double major in these areas, but that to be someone who's understanding death scenes in terms of forensics, who's analyzing DNA evidence, we're talking about someone who's gone on to graduate school and received specialized training, and that it's very much in the area of forensic anthropology rather than criminology. Criminology is much more the social science, and when we're talking about someone who's dealing with these physical sciences, we're thinking about forensic anthropology.
Perfect. And maybe what we'll do is maybe post the academic calendar link maybe in the chat, or even just the general criminology website link, Sarah, just to give the students a little bit of idea around kind of course options, some of those electives and course areas that Alana's talked about, just to give you guys some perspectives. That's perfect. So a couple quick questions here, just as we go through. So Kashmira's got a few, and one of them is around this recording. So we will hopefully post this video on our YouTube channel or through some of our social media accounts. So definitely follow us on social media to stay in touch. And Kashmira, I'll follow up with you via email if you'd like a copy of the recording to view online. So good question. The next question is around kind of semestering, and I know each school board is doing things a little bit different here in Ontario, and just kind of how that's impacting admissions. So Kashmir has a question around, if I have English last quadmester, will you still consider the mark if it comes so late? So that's definitely a question we've got a lot lately from students. Don't be nervous if you're currently in high school and you're in a quad semester or an octomester or some variation of around that. I know there's lots of different ways school boards are delivering courses right now. As long as you apply by the January 15th deadline as an Ontario high school student, you're given equal consideration for admissions. Okay, so first of all, that's the main thing to keep in mind. As long as you apply by the deadline, you're good to go. We know that marks are coming in from school boards at different points during the school year, and our admissions team is aware of that, and they'll be reviewing all of your grade 12 URM courses that are coming in as part of your OSSD or your high school diploma. We do take into consideration your final marks. So marks come through all the way through the new year into the spring and into the end of your semester, and then we get your final grades when you actually complete your diploma. So don't worry about the specific time that a course is going to come in. If English is obviously a prerequisite course for your program, it doesn't matter if you're doing it in the first semester or the last semester of your high school career, that mark will still be reviewed for admissions and it won't hurt you. So that's a good question. It was a long answer there, but to put it short, don't stress out, Kashmira. You'll be okay. So she did have a question about co-op. I know you quickly answered this earlier, Alana, but maybe just a quick touch point on alternatives to co-op as part of the criminology program.
So no, we don't have a co-op program. We do offer a course called Professional Field Exposure that's offered in fourth year. It brings practitioners into the classroom and exposes you to a variety of career options while also developing your skills connected to employability, like resume building, interview skills, and where to look for jobs as an alternative.
Perfect, thanks. So the next question we have is kind of around student supports and tutors, which is a really good question. We have academic support services on all of our campuses and obviously at Lakehead Aurelia. The nice thing for you guys as students, we have kind of like a one-stop shop. It's called Student Central. So basically, if you have questions around course registration, or you need academic supports or accessibility services, or co-op career counseling, kind of anything you would need as a student through some of our student services, you can book an appointment with Student Central. Their front desk is right at the front doors as you come into the main academic building at Lakehead Aurelia, and you can meet with one of our advisors to cover any of the questions or needs you may have from the day you apply to Lakehead till the day you graduate, which is great. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for student supports. We definitely have tutoring available on campus. So we do have some free tutoring options for students at any of our Lakehead programs. We hire tutors through the Student Success Center. So typically they're upper year level students that will help tutor students in specific courses or specific programs. And we have some information around that on our Student Central website. So again, maybe Sarah, if you can post the Student Central link in the chat just to give them a little bit more information about the student supports, that would be awesome. And I think, again, if you're having issues with anything kind of around your courses, the best place to start is to definitely go to your faculty, right? I'm sure Alana would say the same thing, kind of having those smaller class sizes, you really get to know your professors and your faculty members. And, they do have office hours, throughout the semester where you can maybe drop in and ask a few questions or book an appointment after that as well. So kind of having that small class, small campus environment makes things a little bit more laid back, a little bit easier when you kind of need that support. So next question is from Haley, and it's kind of around what we can expect for the next semester, kind of around COVID-19 and how that's impacting student life. So this current academic year, most of our courses have been done through an alternative delivery model, which essentially means most of our courses are running online. That is something that we're obviously reviewing for the next academic year, which would be 2021-2022. So the best thing I can do is to direct you guys to our COVID-19 webpage, and I'll get Sarah to post that in the chat, but it's lakeheadu.ca/COVID-19. And there's a specific page specifically for prospective students where you can get lots of updates around course delivery and any changes that are evolving around the pandemic and its relation to Lakehead. So we don't have a lot of clear answers today, unfortunately, but hopefully we'll have a few coming down in the next couple months as we review things. We're working obviously with all the Ontario universities as well as the Ministry of Health to make sure that we're doing things safely. So just keep an eye on that website for kind of updates around that. Just a couple last questions here. So I'm going to look at, I've got a question from Dylan. When will you know about acceptance into the program? Okay, so that's a good question. So if you've applied to the program, typically the earliest offers we give out to students are in January, and those are what we call our early offers of admissions. The early offers of admissions are typically for students that have very high academic grade 11 U or M courses in the required courses for your program, as well as courses in grade 12 that meet the admissions requirements for your program in that first semester. Okay, so we kind of look at the grades that we have available in grade 12, as well as some of those high grade 11 marks you may have in your required courses. And we may give you an early offer of admissions in January. For most students, offers of admissions will go out a little bit later on in the new year, maybe around February or March, and then through into April. That's when a bulk of our offers of admissions go out to students. So like I said, as long as you apply by that January 15th deadline, you're good to go. You can sit back and relax. And in the next couple months, you'll receive a one of those shiny fancy packages in the mail saying that you've been admitted to the program. So you can always check your application status online as well. And you'll receive your offer of admissions through the OUAC website. Okay, so that's something to keep an eye on if you have questions. So hopefully that clarified things a little bit for you there, Dylan. So I think we only have maybe one question left just before we wrap up. This is an anonymous one, but is there any way to waive the minimum acceptance requirements, or are they set in stone? So good question. The minimum average of 70 is the required average for the program. If you fall just below the 70 average, there may still be an opportunity for you to be admitted into the program, and that would be through what we call our gateway program. So for students that fall just below the minimum average, you can still apply to the program, and you may be considered for what we call our gateway program. Now, what does gateway mean? It's for students that we know have potential to be successful in the program. They may have had some obstacles, maybe in the final year of high school that maybe impacted their average. And we still want to give those students an opportunity to be admitted to the program and really be successful in their degree program. So with the Gateway program, students are given mandatory academic support for the first year of their program. So you would meet with a faculty member, usually your program chair, as well as our student central department, to make sure that you're on track, you're getting the supports that you need as a Lakehead University student, and you're able to progress, into the next year of your program successfully. So I'm going to post maybe the link to the Gateway program in the chat just so you can learn a little bit more about it. But that is an opportunity for those of you that may fall just below that minimum 70 overall average. You do still need the required prerequisite courses for your program. So you do need to have that grade 12 U English completed, but that may be an opportunity for you as well. I think those are all the questions in the Q&A. I'm just going to quickly check the chat here. I think we've covered pretty much everything. Thanks, Sarah, for keeping up in the chat with all the link posts. I know we've been asking you to do a lot there, but I think we're all set. So I want to be mindful of time. I know we've been here for just over an hour. So I want to kind of wrap things up here and say thanks to everybody that's joined us. Thanks again to Dr. Saulnier for a great job kind of explaining all the great things that we have with our criminology program here at Lakehead Aurelia. Like I said, check out our website for information around the virtual open house that's coming up on December 9th. Feel free to check out the virtual campus tour on our website if you want to take a look at everything and join us here on campus. And best of luck to all of you for the rest of the semester. If you have any questions, feel free to stay in touch. Myself and Sarah will send you a follow-up email after today so you can ask us some questions directly. And thanks again for joining. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.